Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Bienvenidos a todos. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros en este webinar.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for the CSU and UC Information Presentation.
Muchas gracias a todos por estar el día de hoy en este webinar con la presentación de respecto a las universidades UC de University of California y de las estatales.
We're going to just give everybody a few more minutes to enter the room before we get started.
Y les vamos a dar a todos unos cuantos minutos más para acomodarse y que puedan entrar y entonces empezar.
Excellent. Well, let's begin. Welcome everyone to the CSU and UC Evening Information Presentation.
Ok, bienvenidos a todos. Muchas gracias por estar aquí para la presentación de las UC, universidades de California y las universidades estatales del estado.
And as you can tell, tonight we have live Spanish translation, and here is a slide with more information on how you can tune in Spanish.
Y como se pueden dar cuenta, tenemos el día de hoy interpretación en vivo para las personas que necesitan esta ayuda. Y entonces aquí está una diapositiva para que puedan saber cómo hacerlo. I'm going to go ahead and just read the slide for the Spanish speakers. Y entonces, si usted puede entender esto, ahora en español la explicación está aquí. Si usted puede ver dentro de su Zoom, en la parte de abajo, usted va a ver un iconito que tiene la forma de un globo o un planeta. Si usted le pica, entonces ahí le pueden salir las opciones, usted elige español como el idioma y entonces al final hace usted apagar el micrófono o apagar el audio original. Entonces ya estará usted escuchando el audio en español exclusivamente.
Wonderful, thank you. And then just to confirm that we have selected you as the interpreter for tonight from the superintendent's office, and then you can start recording.
Ok, y entonces ya voy a yo empezar a hablar, a hacer la interpretación. Voy a entrar en el canal del audio en español y voy a empezar la interpretación en vivo. Gracias.
Fantastic.
Translation has started.
Perfect. So welcome everyone to the UC and CSU Information Night. We're delighted to have you with us. We'd like to start off by saying a huge thank you to the MVLA Foundation for their endless support for college and career resources for our district. We would also like to thank both of our speakers, one representative from the CSU and another from the UC. For the first hour, we will have Chelsea Mooney presenting about the CSU system and speaking a bit about Humboldt State, where she works. And then at 7 o'clock, we'll have Sebastian Franco from UC Santa Barbara speak about the UC system and a bit about UC Santa Barbara. There will be time at the end of each presentation for Q&A, but throughout, please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section, and we'll be responding to some of those during the presentation, but also again, we'll have time at the end of each hour for our presenter to answer your questions. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Chelsea Mooney. Thanks, Chelsea.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I do see already there is someone that can't hear anything. So I think Heather is answering that. But if there's a lot of people that can't hear anything, definitely comment. But yeah, my name is Chelsea. I am the Bay Area Admissions Counselor for Humboldt State. And yet today I will be talking to you about the CSU system. And of course, giving most of my examples will be from my campus, Humboldt State, just because that's where I am the expert of, but I will try to do it overall on the whole system as well. So I'm going to share my screen and we can get started. So, perfect. So again, thank you for joining. This is just a brief overview of some of the things I'm going to touch on today. I will talk about the CSU system, what colleges in general can offer, especially what we can offer, and a little bit about the admissions requirements, important dates, some tips for success. And but yeah, I can go ahead and get started. And yeah, if you feel free to put things in the Q&A as we go along, and I will get to them at the end of the presentation, but don't hesitate to write in there, like, just so you don't forget your questions. So the CSU system does have 23 campuses. My campus, Humboldt State, is the most northern, and then all the way down into San Diego. I will show a map in a couple of slides that does show all the different campuses. We are super diverse in general and really affordable. All of our campuses do have lots of hands-on learning and very focused job placement. We do serve over 400,000 students across the state of California, and we are one of the largest public, if not the largest, in the United States public system, where with the 23 campuses, we do have lots of different options of programming and everything. So just some things to think about, even just when you're thinking about choosing a college. On the side here are some different ideas to think about and different topics, because choosing a college is a huge deal, right? And everything from size to location to programs to what your campus life is going to be. There are so many different aspects of choosing a college that is super important just to kind of reflect and think about it when you're going to apply. And yeah, I'll get through some of these like more in depth of just what kind of things the CSU offers in these different topics. As far as location really matters. And this is the map I was talking about a few minutes ago. It shows all 23 campuses all across California. You see Humboldt all up there, kind of by its lonesome. We are about 2 hours south of the Oregon border and a 5 to 6 hour drive north of the Bay, depending on how fast you drive, traffic, all those good factors. And then you can see all the way down south, we do have San Diego, San Marcos, and it really, almost anywhere in California, right, you can find a place to study in the CSU system. And really, every single campus has a different, as far as the atmosphere. This slide does consider Humboldt rural, but we are also 10 minutes away from the beach, and we have forest, like you can see in my background, in my Zoom background, we do a forest like that right on campus. And then you have the wine country of Sonoma, the large city like San Jose, San Francisco State, and everything in between. So, I mean, when thinking about where you want to go to college, I mean, really location does matter. Do you want to be in a big city, or do you want to be in somewhere that is more rural, more like nature focused, or maybe you want something kind of in between, like a suburb like Fullerton. So there's definitely options, and everything is, it really depends on the individual student. But we really do have a wide variety of where our campuses are located. Another factor that really does matter as well is size. So we do have from Cal State Maritime, which has just over 1,000 students, all the way to our largest campus, Fullerton, that has over 40,000. And really, it depends on each individual student, whether you want to be at a big school or a small school. Humboldt State is really, even though we listed our kind of on the smaller side, we're kind of in the middle, right? And it's still a big enough campus community that we are very much a college town, but we do have small class sizes, and our current student to faculty ratio is 21 students to 1 professor, as well as just, you get that hands-on experience because of that with your professors. But there are lots of people that would rather be in bigger classes, right? Maybe you do want to be in a bigger class and be able to blend in with the crowd a little bit more. In general, our class sizes are pretty small across the whole system. But for example, at Humboldt State, the biggest class size, I think, is maybe, I think the biggest lecture hall is 100 students. And that really isn't used very often. About 60% of our classes are under 30. So some benefits of the CSU system, some of these I've already talked about a little bit, but we definitely are very hands-on. We want you getting hands-on experience, whether it be research or, different internships, just really learning by doing and making sure that what you are studying is really what you do want to do in your future career. And if it isn't, then you have time to change your major. At most campuses, at least at Humboldt, is pretty easy to make a major change. And that hands-on approach does get you that, chance to make sure that you're studying what you do want to. I did also already mention about moderate class sizes. From the extensive academic student and support services, we have so many things, whether it comes from writing support, tutoring, counseling support. We do have lots of different majors, and we, really great faculty from all over the world, and just there's so much, but these are just a couple of the different benefits for going to the CSU system. And when it comes to paying for college, we are very affordable, and I will get into, I think it's not the next slide, it's in a couple of slides of what price looks like for the CSU system. But we definitely offer lots of different scholarships, work study, loans. You really do your research when it comes down to how you're going to be paying for college. For example, in this picture, you see one of our students. This is a really new picture because this restaurant, the Bigfoot Burgers, just opened on campus only a few weeks ago. And that's one way that this student is helping to pay for his education. He is, having this job. Aside from grants and loans, scholarships, definitely do your research when it comes down to which campus, because we do have our individual scholarship applications that are separate from the FAFSA. For example, ours does open in November for the following year. November 15th, it will open for any of you seniors that are hopefully in the room, hopefully maybe going to apply to one of the CSU campuses next year. But there is lots of different types of scholarships. So some are specifically for incoming freshmen. Some are for different departments. It might be your background or an interest. So definitely do your research and look into it, and don't let the numbers scare you. But again, we are pretty affordable being part of the CSU system. And I do, yes. So hopefully you can read this slide. I know it's really tiny, and I will go on to a next slide where it shows the numbers for Humboldt State in particular, a little bit bigger. But this gives you a range. Obviously not all 23 are listed here, but it does show you we're all approximately the same price. There's little tiny differences. And of course, depending on where the campus is located, that does have an impact on the prices you'll pay as far as food and housing and things like that. But in general, again, we are all around that, $6,000 to $8,000 per year for when it comes down to the tuition and fees. And like I said, I would go into, this is specifically for Humboldt State. And across the board, you are going to pay that $7,800 and change for the fees and tuition. All the other aspects of it really depends on individual student life. Whether, I know when I was in college, books and supplies, I really did try to get as many books I could used or, rent them. and the same for food and housing. You know, if you live with 5 roommates, it's going to be a lot different than if you have your own apartment living on campus or off campus. So again, all of these are really just kind of depends a lot on the individual student, but and where you are. For example, transportation is another one that really does vary, just because if, like, for example, in Humboldt, we do allow any student to have cars on campus, but you don't have to have a car either. You can get around with transportation with our local bus system. You do get a bus pass in your tuition for like part of your fees, and you can go to a lot of the different surrounding areas with it. So these are just a couple of the different things to think about, and don't let the numbers scare you, but because a lot of the will be covered by some financial aid of some sort. And so getting into the majors, these are just a few of the many programs that you can study at the CSUs. In the picture, you can see this is a Humboldt State picture, and it is our oceanography students on our research vessel, the Coral Sea. We do have, a lot of our campuses do have business. A lot of them do have education, music related things. And then you do get into the nitty gritty of like wine and viticulture, where, you know, obviously that not every single campus is going to offer those types of majors. So I definitely recommend that you explore, and there is, I can even pull it up after my presentation as well. I'll try. There is a website on the CSU that you can compare the different campuses. And one really great thing on that website is you can put, okay, I want to study business. And then it'll show you like all the different campuses that have it, you know, and you can narrow it down as well with a search feature of saying, I want to be in a rural area, or I want to be in a big campus with like 25,000 students or more, and just kind of compare and contrast the different campuses and what you really do want. But I find the major feature is really great, because then it just lets you know, okay, if you do have something in mind, you can make sure that you pick a CSU that does have it. We also at Humboldt State allow for students to apply undeclared, which is really awesome if you don't know what you want to study quite yet. We treat it just like any other major. And then you get to take some classes when you arrive, and that you have to take anyway to graduate, and get to play around with it a little bit and really just explore and figure out what you do want to study, and not have to be like trapped in a major that maybe you aren't 100% sure. Every campus is a little bit different, so not all of the campus will allow for students to apply undeclared, but a lot of them do. And then you just get to declare your major later on. And it's a pretty easy process. So I definitely, if you're in that exploration stage, and I mean, I know some of you that are seniors, the application will be opening kind of soon, next week, I believe. But you can always apply undeclared if that's always an option. And so life at the CSU, like many campuses and colleges around the country, there are always so many different things going on, whether it be on campus events, on campus clubs, study abroad programs. The CSU does have their own study abroad programming that allows you to go to many different places around the world with other state student going abroad at the same time as someone from Cal State Long Beach. You don't necessarily have to do one of the CSU specific study abroad programs, but that is something that we offer. At Humboldt State, you can also take study abroad from other third-party providers and things as well. At Humboldt State, we have 180 plus student organizations. So there's lots of different things to get involved in. You can get involved in like academic-based clubs, different special interest, volunteer, and different activism, lots of different options. And it's also pretty easy at most campuses too, to start your own club or organization if it's something really in particular you want to be involved in. Lots of different ways to get involved in community service, leadership development programs. And I know for sure, I talked a little bit already about finding a job on campus, but I definitely do recommend that you look into that, and because there are lots of options. That it can be something like working at the dining hall, or it could be working with admissions. We hire several students every year to give our tours. It could also be something involved in your major. You could be involved in research and actually get paid for it. So definitely lots going on, and each campus is very different and unique. And I really encourage you to look into what the campus life is like, ask questions. And especially now in the virtual environment, a lot of them do have tours that are given by students that will kind of give you an insider's look at what the campus is like. We do have them virtual and in person as well. But yeah, so definitely. And if you, again, just a reminder, if you do have questions, put them in the Q&A. And I'm happy to talk about more anything that if you want me to elaborate on something. As far as campus resources go, definitely we want our students to be supported in any way necessary and possible. All of our campuses do have academic advising and writing centers, career centers. I know ours in particular does do a lot of unique things, like we have a lot of interview prep and workshops on like what to wear for interviews, and resume, like help if you need help writing your resume. And the list just goes on as far as what the different resources are. So definitely look into it. And this is if you decide to go to a CSU, or if you decide to go really anywhere. Most across the country do have most of these services, and definitely take advantage of them, because they're there to support you, to help you through your college experience. You're in a new place, maybe if you did decide to relocate when you go to school, and taking advantage of these things will just help you, be more successful. And yeah, so these are just a few of the examples of different campuses. Like all of our campuses have all of them in some capacity or other. The Disability Student Service is another one that is very across the board, really something I do recommend if you currently have any accommodations, or if you think you will benefit from them. Our SDRC, or the Student Disability Resource Center, is something that is really great, and they work individually with students to design your plan of what if you need extra test time, or if you need note-taking services, things like that. The university really is there to help you succeed. And yeah. And we do have lots of divisions in athletics in the CSU system. If you don't see a campus you're interested in on this list, that doesn't mean that they don't have athletics. These are just a couple of the examples of campuses that are D2 or D1. Humboldt State is D2. We have 11 different sports teams that are D2. And we also do, and most campuses do as well, have intramural and club sports as well. So if you're not at that D2, D1 level, that doesn't mean that you can't be involved in some sort of capacity in athletics. Our club sports are kind of a middle ground of being still competitive and competing against other schools. For example, we have club in both women and men. And then we do have intramural as well. That is that like really low key, maybe you've never played basketball before, but you do want to try it. that is something that you can do. So definitely, if sports is something that is important to your lifestyle, definitely check out the different campuses because we all offer different sports. For example, Sacramento State is one that has a football team, and Humboldt State doesn't. So if playing football is something that's important to you, then maybe you need to figure out which campus would be the right fit for you that way. As far as living on campus, there are a lot of benefits to living on campus. This picture here is from Sonoma State, and to me they look very much like it's kind of in a, and every housing residence hall at each campus is very different, unique, and specialized communities. I definitely recommend, it's something to consider living on campus, maybe your first year. It's not something for everyone though, but it is giving you a convenience to being right on campus near your classes. It does, it's less to worry about because you don't have to worry about traffic driving to campus. There is automatic social life in all the residence halls as far as movie nights and, other activities. You get like automatic friends that you can meet that live in your residence hall. Some campuses do require it for freshmen. I know San Diego State is one that does require it for all freshmen that are outside of the typical, like the admissions, where like the local community, there we go. But for example, Humboldt State does not require any of our students to live on campus. It's a total optional thing, and it's not guaranteed at Humboldt State. We do have around 2,000 spots for students, so it definitely is something to make sure you apply to early. About 90% of our students do live on campus as a freshman, and then it kind of a mix of upperclassmen and transfer students, but about 90% of freshmen at Humboldt State do live on campus. Getting into a little bit about the requirements, and just so you know, I'm not sure what the breakdown is. I know there's a lot of people here tonight and probably there's some different age groups. I can talk very specifically about what the requirements are going to be for the fall of 2022. They might be tweaked just a little bit for the following fall, depending on what the CSU system decides to do with test scores. Right now, we are not requiring test scores because of COVID. So a lot more weight is going on your GPA. Currently, if you have a 2.5 or higher for Humboldt State, you would meet that eligibility GPA requirement. And then we'll still look at your application when you have between a 2.0 and a 2.5. And we'll just look at other multi-factor criteria that it could be everything from if you're involved in programs such as AVID or other after school, military status, things like that. There's a big long list. But just know for Humboldt State specifically, each campus is doing it differently. But Humboldt State is using the minimum of the 2.5 and higher is automatic. And then between the 2.0 and 2.49 we'll still look at your application. And then of course, being a high school graduate is I know everyone here is going to graduate high school that hasn't already. Completing the A to G course patterns, which is all those subjects that hopefully your guidance counselors are all preparing you and making sure you're on track with it. I personally am happy to look at, help navigate that to see if there's anything you're missing or should be, maybe you still have some time to add something to your spring course load. But yeah, getting the C- or higher in those A to G courses is definitely important. And it's pretty straightforward, but that's, again, keep an eye for any juniors or younger in the room. Keep an eye on what it might look like going forward. It might be tweaked a little bit. I'm not sure if the CSU is planning on bringing test scores back or not. So it's just something to keep in mind. And I did already say the A to G requirements a bit, but this gives you the total breakdown of how many years of each subject you will need. It's pretty straightforward. And just to clarify, the LOTE is language other than English, and VPA does stand for Visual Performing Arts. Again, all of the courses do have to be completed with a C- or higher. And there is that A to G guide on this website here. I recommend if you take a picture of it and you can look it up later to make sure if you need any assistance on that. And then I'm not going to get super into it tonight, but we do a lot of transfer students as well. You know, it's pretty straightforward as far as requirements. And it really, if you are thinking about going from a community college to a CSU, something that you can talk to admissions counselors such as myself as early as now, like whenever you decide to go to your community college, and just to make sure that you're already kind of like on the pathway to transfer. At the community college, you will have counselors that help you out as well, but each CSU is a little bit different on the requirements that they need, as well as just the how flexible they are. For example, at Humboldt State, you could go to a community college for only one semester and then transfer to us, as long as you took a certain classes, where if you go to one of the more impacted campuses, which I'm going to get into what impacted means in just a second, you might have to go for a full 2 years before you're eligible to transfer. So if going to community college is something that is, in your plan, definitely keep in contact with schools that you are hoping to transfer to after, just to make sure you're on that right track. Again, I'm like, these are the different classes you would have to take in order to transfer. And this is if you have like a full 2-year course, like 60 units or above, approximately 2 years. These are courses you would have to take to be eligible. We also do have associate degree for transfer agreements that is guaranteed admission to the CSU system, but not a particular campus. So it really, it does definitely depend on where you are going to go, what you want to study. There are different ways of, transferring. At Humboldt State, you don't have to have an associate degree for transfer. You can have one for sure. But the associate degree for transfer is also referred to as a degree with a guarantee. If you follow that path line, it does guarantee that you transfer to the CSU system, again, not to a specific campus, but also that you, it basically guarantees you that you'd be able to graduate in 2 more years as long as you follow the correct pathway. I briefly mentioned the word impaction, and I definitely, impaction is something that is, it's confusing. So I do want to make sure that I explain it to make sure that everyone does understand. Impaction is basically when a campus receives too many applications for the number of spots it has, either as a campus as a whole or for specific programs. So sometimes the minimum requirements that I was going over earlier, sometimes to get into certain programs, you do have to have more than just that minimum. At Humboldt State, we are not impacted at all. Right now, the only impaction that we do have is nursing. And that is a very specific program that you have to have your RN, your nursing license before you can come to us. You have your associates already, and you come to us for 2 more years to get your bachelor's in science and nursing. So we are not impacted at all, but there are quite a few campuses that are impacted. these 7 campuses are impacted on a campus level. So I believe every single one of their programs are impacted. And that means that it's a lot more competitive, and you will have to, usually it's a higher GPA, certain programs and certain things you need to have other, classes and other qualifications as well. But a GPA is definitely one of the points that you usually have to have a higher one. These campuses, you can see that Humboldt State is on them. They're non-impacted, but that doesn't mean that they may have impacted programs. So definitely check in with the programs that you're interested in, and check in with someone such as myself from any campus that you're interested in, just to see if your campus, like if they do have impaction or not. But yes, again, we're not impacted. So if you meet the minimum requirements that I was talking about earlier, you will get an admissions offer to Humboldt State. And so just to talk more about tips for you when you are looking for colleges, really do broaden your search. Don't just search for name schools. Do your research, ask questions. I really do recommend that you talk to someone such as myself. I know that I do individual appointments. Every campus does it a little bit differently, but I do both phone, Zoom, and in-person appointments. Others, you might have a peer advisor from a current student, and just reach out though to the admissions office and ask your questions. Make sure that you get a full picture of what opportunities are out there. And yeah, just really do your research, ask questions, and kind of broaden your scope about what you might be interested in. We do definitely get in contact with your different campuses. Like I said briefly before, I do pre-admissions advising, and my job is to help you right from day one of even before you're applying to when you apply, right up until you go through orientation. So I'm your number one contact as far as any question you might have, big or small. And then if I don't know the answer, I'll get you connected to the right person that does. I do recommend that you register for tours, whether it be virtual if you can't get to the campus in person. I don't know if all campuses are open yet for in-person tours, but a lot of us are. And definitely take advantage of that if you do have the opportunity to go and safely see the campus and see what the vibe is like. And then follow the campuses on social media. It is really one of the easiest ways to get that up-to-date information. Humboldt State, you can go from the Humboldt State regular admission Instagram to most majors do have Instagram or Facebooks. Humboldt Admissions does have a Instagram that we're on a little bit of a pause, but hopefully we are starting it back up soon. It's a student run account. So that's really cool that you get to kind of see an insider's look of what it might look like really to be a Humboldt State student or wherever the campus may be. But definitely follow it on social media. Like it's the easiest way to get the most up-to-date information about where you might want to go. And as far as the application, CalState Apply is the application for the entire system. And what makes it really easy is you fill it out once, and then you submit it multiple times if you want to apply to multiple campuses. The application period for fall of 2022 does open October 1st, so next week. And then the priority deadline is November 30th. Some schools do end up, making the deadline go a bit longer than that. But the priority deadline for the entire system is November 30th. And there is a $70 fee to apply, and you may qualify for a fee waiver. It's automatic on the application. When you fill out, you'll see, you'll put some financial information. And if you qualify for the fee waiver, then you will, they'll let you know and you won't have to pay. I believe students can qualify for up to 4 campuses if you do qualify for that fee waiver. And we do have a Cal State Apply Help Center that is really helpful as far as any technical glitches that might happen. It is a computer-based system, so there are problems sometimes, and that Cal State Apply will be your biggest help. As far there's a live chat feature as well as a phone number. You can just if you Google Cal State Apply Help Center, they're awesome, and they'll hopefully get back to you as soon as possible. But like I said, you can apply to multiple campuses. You just have to individually select the different programs, and then you only have to fill out your coursework once. So we don't have letters of recommendation or essays for the general CSU application. There are definitely some programs that have supplemental criteria that you might have to have some of those for, as well as if you are applying to our educational opportunity program. That is something that you do will need letters of recommendation and a essay. The EOP, the Educational Opportunity Program, is specifically for first generation and low income students. And it's a great program that I definitely recommend you look into it to see if you qualify. It's a support system that, it starts right from application through your entire time at whatever campus you end up going to is just another support. So that wraps up most of my presentation. I am happy to take some questions. I definitely encourage you to jot down my email. This Slate link and the QR code is specifically for Humboldt State. So if you want to get on our mailing list, I definitely encourage you to scan the code or type in the link. But yeah, I'm happy to take some questions now, and I'll open up the Q&A. I do appreciate, I know some of the questions were being answered throughout the presentation, so I appreciate it. So the first question is, please clarify some myths. Are reject decisions made because admissions officers make subjective decisions that the applicant will not result in higher yield and will go somewhere else? No, that is not true. When we do, especially at Humboldt State, so at Humboldt State, every campus does their admissions a little bit different, but at Humboldt State, right now, if you meet the requirements, you will get in, because we're not impacted at all. The campuses that are impacted, they do have to look at other supplemental criteria to see who gets into their programs. And it's a program by program, campus by campus, but it's not because they make a subjective decision that the applicant will go somewhere else. That's definitely not something the CSUs do. So did CSUs coordinate, the second part of it is to which CSU to admit the applicant? No, we don't coordinate. The applicants have to submit their applications to the campus that they want to submit it. I can't see, if you're not applying to Humboldt State, I won't be able to see anything. So really, you do want to make sure you're picking the right programs and the right campuses, because we won't ever get the applications if you don't. And so the second question, if you're planning on taking a gap year, do you apply at the end of the senior year and say you would like to take a gap year, or do you apply after? Great question. So yes, you would apply when you are ready to attend, because most campuses won't let you defer, and you would have to reapply again. So say, for example, you are in your senior year now and you're maybe considering whether or not to take a gap year, then you could still apply, and then you would have the chance to make that decision, but you would have to reapply next year once you're closer. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, please let me know if I didn't explain that very clearly. do CSUs, specifically Cal Poly, look at demonstrated interest? So I guess I don't really understand the question. So if whoever wrote that question, if you could maybe like put it, call it like, put it in again and I'll try to answer it. I'm sorry. So the next question, how can you find out if a major requires an essay or other material? Yeah, great question. So in the application, it will be very clear. Right now at Humboldt State, we don't have any of our majors that require any other extra material. So I definitely recommend that you, when you're checking in with the admissions for whichever campus, they can be able to tell you if there is going to be any supplemental criteria. But it is also, depending on how you fill out the application, the CSU, it will trigger other things. So if the application does require something, it's not going to let you submit the application without putting something in that field. So it's pretty straightforward, but you can preemptively figure out things if you talk to the admissions department and make sure you're on the right track for that major. So yes, so the next question is, will you be accepting grades of credit or pass for A to G requirements? Yes, the CSU system is doing that because of COVID. So if it says a credit or pass on your transcript, we will accept that as that you passed the class. It won't count anything towards your GPA, but it will count as far as meeting that class. So across the board, the CSUs are they are accepting credit and pass for A to G requirements. How long did it take to hear back? Really depends on the campus. For Humboldt State, it's usually about a 3 to 4 week process after we have your documents. Sometimes it's sooner, sometimes it's a little bit later, but it is a pretty fast. I can't speak for the other CSUs. Sometimes it might be a little bit longer, but 3 to 4 weeks is a good estimate for Humboldt State. Specifically, what does EOP offer to first generation students? That's a great question. The EOP program does so much. So it's everything from application support if you need help with the application, to financial aid assistance if you need extra help, like either understanding the FAFSA or understanding like what your financial aid package is like, to extra support in signing up for classes. You do have an advisor specifically in EOP in addition to your major advisor. And really, I mean, they're there to support you in every single part of your college career. So definitely, if it is something, if you do fall under the income gap range and the first generation student, I definitely recommend that you try applying to EOP. And the last question. Okay, I'm sorry if I was trying to go slow, so I do say I'm sorry if I went a little fast. But yeah, I'm happy to I think that this is being recorded, so I do believe that you'll be able to rewatch it, and definitely reach out to me directly if you have any questions specifically about Humboldt State especially, but you can always ask me general CSU questions as well. And now I know the EOP program, do you need to apply with the college application? You can start it with the application. You do have the opportunity to start it. And then most campuses, like at least Humboldt State, you can finish it later and apply directly to EOP separately. But there is a thing that says, are you interested? And you can select to fill it out now or later. So as far as for the CSU slow asking applicants to complete a supplemental, I'm not sure, to be honest. They very well may, but since I don't work for them, I'm not 100% sure. Definitely connect with their admissions office, and they definitely can help you out with that. Let's see. Will CSU accept classes taken at a community college while being a high school student as credits towards graduation? Is there a limit to the number of classes and credits to be allowed counted? Yes, it definitely. If you are doing a dual enrollment program, 100%, we will count those towards your graduation requirements. And you'll just need to make sure that you send us your community college transcripts as well as your high school transcripts. But there is a limit number of classes that transfer as far as the unit count for graduating. At Humboldt State, we transfer any class you take at a community college will transfer, but 70 will count towards the overall unit count. Everything else will still transfer, but you have to take an X amount of classes at Humboldt State to graduate. So, but yes, definitely, if you're taking dual enrollment classes, 100% we will give you credit for them. And is a CSU rolling admissions? We are rolling admissions in the decision making, because at least at Humboldt State, I can't speak for every single campus, but at Humboldt State, we are rolling admissions as with the decisions. The sooner you apply and the sooner we get your documents, the sooner you will hear from us. But there is like the deadlines and everything. So it's not rolling admissions, but it is rolling admissions decisions. Again, I can't guarantee that every campus is like that, but the sooner you apply to Humboldt State, the sooner you will find out. And I already answered the credit or not credits. And then let's see, how does AP and honors play a role in enrollment? Does it make the applicant seem competitive? Yeah, for sure. And it does. The AP and honors we do when we're calculating your GPA, we do give you extra points for taking AP and honors classes. So it definitely helps your GPA in that sense. And every campus does do like a little bit different as far as like how competitive an applicant you need to be. But for sure, the AP and honors do play a role in the fact that you would have a higher GPA than if those are just not AP. Additionally, if you take AP classes and take the tests, most tests do give you some credit. At Humboldt State, most of our AP classes, if you have a 3 or better, you'll get some credit for them. There obviously are exceptions, but it's definitely worth it if you did take those tests. Make sure that you send them to us in the College Board. Make sure you send us your scores and everything. And so the CSU, the next question is, does the CSU look at and consider freshman year grades? We do. It won't be considered in your GPA, but it will be as far as requirements. So for example, if you took Spanish 1 in freshman year, that is like 1 year of your language other than English. Or for example, biology is one that you might take as a freshman year, but those specific grades won't be calculated in your overall GPA. It'll just be 10th through 12th for your GPA. So, and I know I am getting close on time. I'm trying to be, it's almost 7. What role does declaring a major play in the admissions process? So basically on the application, you can either choose to declare a major or put undeclared. And that is just, it's what program you'll end up being in once you get to Humboldt State or the other, whatever campus you choose. Some campuses will make you choose a major. Others, like Humboldt State, you can come in undeclared. Hopefully that answered the question. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, it's just on the application, you put what major, what program you would like to be in. And last year with online schooling proving to be a major challenge, 100% I agree. Some students did, the GPA was affected for sure. Does the CSU admissions look at grades differently or factor this into consideration? So it definitely is at some point, definitely it's taken into account. We still have those GPA requirements. It definitely really, there's a lot of different things, especially at Humboldt State. If students don't meet the requirements, we do offer appeal processes, and the students can have the opportunity to explain what happened. So we're still looking at the grades the same, but there are some exceptions, and we do definitely understand that, it is, pretty, it's been a pretty hard couple of years for everyone. So yeah. So will COVID and distant learning be considered when looking at 2020? So that's the same kind of thing. So we're still looking at the grades of what they're printed on the transcript, but there are definitely some, factors. If you do have to go through the appeal process, definitely explaining your side of the story is something that we at Humboldt State are definitely being really flexible on and understanding. Every campus is a little bit different for sure. And how does 12th grade factor into GPA if they apply before the semester ends? Great question. So basically what happens is we factor in your GPA, what is currently, and then we do have to do another evaluation once you graduate. So most for the campuses, because you haven't graduated yet, when you apply, you'll get a conditional admissions decision, and then we'll be able to switch you to final once you have given your final grades. But yeah, so it does factor in. I know that sometimes the GPA does improve, but it also makes sure you keep studying hard and keeping that GPA up throughout the 12th grade year. And pass and no pass was used for the second semester of my sophomore year for the whole school. What would that say to colleges? At this point, everyone really does understand that pass or pass, no pass was a, for the CSU system, that's not going to be a problem. It's not, we understand that it wasn't your choice. So definitely, that's not going to be an issue. And the 7th semester grades, are they looked at for admissions? So at Humboldt State, we are requiring 7th semester transcripts for every single student. Not all campuses do. Some, they do it on the 6th semester and then final. So make sure you check in with your individual campus. But at Humboldt State, we do require 7th semester transcripts. And so I think I answered all of the questions, and right on time, it's 6:59. So I thank you for having me, and definitely reach out any questions. I'm here to help.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. That was amazing. You presented perfectly and you answered all the questions flawlessly. So we really appreciate your time. And for everyone in the audience, I'll on your behalf say thank you to Chelsea. So a huge round of applause for all of our guests tonight. And I would love to introduce our next presenter, Sebastian Franco, who is a representative from UC Santa Barbara, and he will start presenting on the UC system overall, and then take questions at the end of his presentation as well. So feel free to start dropping your UC questions into the Q&A, and we'll answer some directly, and then we'll leave time at the end for Sebastian to answer those. So Sebastian, if you're ready, we'll let you get your slides going.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Chelsea. And good to see you as well, by the way. Chelsea and I have worked a lot, so it's nice to be able to see each other again, at least virtually.
Yeah, good to see you too.
But again, hi everyone. My name is Sebastian Franco. I am the admissions counselor for UC Santa Barbara. And for today's presentation, so I'm going to do just a quick 5-minute overview of just UCSB, but then I promise we'll dive right into the UC system as a whole. So I'll make sure to really share everything about the application process, all the way to admissions requirements, a little bit about transferring process. So of course, if there are any questions, as mentioned before, please use the Q&A feature. I'll make sure that there's enough time to answer all of them. But again, going into that, so we'll go into UCSB. So the first thing I want to point out is that within UCSB specifically, we have 3 different colleges. The first one is the College of Letters and Science. This one has the most amount of majors, hence the most amount of students. Now, this college is not competitive, not impacted, not selective. So that means that as long as you're admitted to UCSB, you'll automatically be placed into one of those majors. This college is also great for undeclared students. So if any of you are really not sure what you want to study, keep in mind that you have those options there for you as well. Otherwise, the second college is the College of Engineering. So this one is the smallest college out of the whole UC system. Within it, we actually have, as the only college that is selective. So that means that we do have a limit of how many students can get into this college. However, no additional requirements. The main thing is that we have one recommendation, and that is to get into calculus, if not pre-calc, while you're in high school. That will help your chances into the College of Engineering. The third and last college is the College of Creative Studies. So this is all about creating something new, something that does not exist, something that is different. That might mean all the way from finding the cure to cancer, all the way to publishing your own work if you wanted to, or your own book. So students in this specific college will actually work one-on-one with a mentorship program with another professor from the day you start till the day you graduate. And they will support you with that process. Now, this college is not selective, so we don't have a limit of how many students can get in here, but it does have a supplemental application. So for all my seniors applying to this college, just keep in mind, and this is the same thing for any UC that may have a supplemental application, you will not receive any of this information until after November 30th. So after you submit that UC application, that's when we will send you that information about the supplemental application. All right. Now, other thing as well is that when you look into each of the UC campuses, there may be some additional programs that are not majors, they're not minors, they're just basically programs to support your specific majors. So this, for example, at UCSB, we have the health professions and the law advising program. So if any of you are thinking about medical school, law school, or vet school, these 2 programs will make sure you're taking the courses and exams to get into med school, law school, or vet school. At the same time, we also have what's called TMP, Technology Management Program. So this is going to be a specific program that will give you a certificate in business on top of interacting with companies in Santa Barbara. And we have our own version of Shark Tank. Hopefully most, if not all of you have seen that show, but same concept. It's basically you and a group of friends come up with this great idea for a company. And then you showcase this to a group of investors on campus. If they like the idea, they'll give you money and help you get it started, just like Shark Tank would do. So again, a lot of opportunities for that entrepreneurship side of things. Now, within residence halls, so we do have 8 different residence halls. You are not required to live on campus, not even your first year. Now, we know that with COVID, it made it a little bit more difficult to see those residence halls. So we do actually have virtual tours of all of them online. So definitely feel free to look at those. But just to give you some perspective, actually all of the UC campuses have gone to in-person classes this fall. That also includes having students in the residence halls. Obviously, each of the UCs may have some different policies when it regarding the specific COVID restrictions, but otherwise we're all going to be in person, something to keep in mind. Of course, for my seniors, we will keep you updated as much as we can for next year. Obviously, we just don't know what to expect or what's going to happen next year. So we will keep you informed as that information comes along for us. All right. And then last couple of things as well. One thing is that we do have over 600 different student organizations, all of them started by and for students. So if you don't see the one that you want, just get it started. All it takes is just you, 3 other friends, and that's it. No extra fees whatsoever. That's why we have so many and they keep on growing, but we have all the way from the Harry Potter Alliance, all the way to my personal favorite, which we don't have at the moment, but we used to have a Costco club. Not making this up, we used to have a Costco club. Their whole mission and purpose was to go to Costco for free samples. That was it. So as you can tell, college students come up with great ideas. So if you don't see it, just get it started. It's as simple as that. Now within sports, we are a Division I institution. We have 19 different sports. Most popular is soccer by far, but what's even better, every single home game for every sport for every student is free. All you need is a student ID card, head inside, have fun. Then of course we have club sports, competitive, just not Division I yet. And lastly, it's going to be intramurals. This is just for fun. It's you and your friends competing against other friends on campus. I always say it's for fun, but there's always that one friend that just has to make it competitive for everybody else, right? You'll know who that is. And then one last thing as well is going to be education abroad programs. Now, this is not just for UCSB. This is for any UC campus. So if any of you are thinking about traveling abroad, just keep in mind that the UC system shares the same education abroad office. It happens to be in Santa Barbara, but it's the same thing for everyone. So basically what that means is that if you go to UCSB, but if any of your friends go to any of the other UC campuses, you both can still travel to the same countries, same programs, same classes, same everything. So it's a really neat feature within the UC system since we share that same specific office. But within those programs, all of us do have over 150 programs to choose from, over 40 countries worldwide, and every continent except Antarctica are included. A little bit too cold down there, but also that you have the options. Now, all of the credits they do abroad, they will transfer back to UCSB or to that UC campus, so you can graduate on time. So you will not be placed behind because you go for a quarter, a semester, or a year. On top of that, we all have also 2 national programs, one in DC, one in Sacramento. So if you're like, I want to travel, but I don't want to leave the country, we have one in DC, one in Sacramento, and how they work. So you will do a specific internship with your specific program and career path in mind in one of those 2 cities over the summer, and you will get credits out of it. So again, a great opportunity for you to get credits, travel, and also see what you can do after you graduate from college. The last thing I want to point out with UCSB before I go to the UC application, if any of you do care to have more information about either the UC application all the way to learn more about UCSB from a student perspective, highly recommend you look into the admissions one. This one will actually bring in students to do live takeovers. So students will actually, our current students will actually answer your specific questions, just in case you care to learn more about that. All right, as promised, it was a very short just intro to UCSB, but now we're going to go into the main topic for tonight. So it's going to be all about the UC system, just like Chelsea did with the CSUs. So going into the admissions process, or just in general, the UCs. So we'll talk first about just the system and kind of what that looks like for students. Then we'll go into specifically the admissions process for first-year students. I'll briefly mention transfer because I know all of you are in high school still, but I still want to mention a couple of things about transferring. And then, of course, why is it important and what do you get as well out of that UC experience? So going into it, the first thing I point out too is that within the UC system, we have a total of 9 different UC campuses. Technically, we have 10, but 9 of those are undergraduate. Only 1 is graduate programs, and that's going to be UC San Francisco. But otherwise, all of you are going to be looking at these 9 UCs. Now, within them, one thing that is really important that I like to say is that we're one big family, but we're all siblings within each other. So what does that mean? We're a little bit different from one another. So it is important that you check with every campus and see how are we different. Do they have the specific majors you're looking for? Do they have the specific location? Do they have the sizes that you're looking for within each of those specific campuses? Just to give you some context, our largest UC campus is LA with about 45,000 students. Our smallest is Merced with about 9,000 students. And of course, we have all of our campuses in between that. So again, that's just one factor of the many others that we really think that are important for students to kind of figure out before they come to a UC campus. So again, really look into those differences that we have. Now, outside of that, we all share one application. So it's only one application for all 9 UCs. Everything you share on that application will be exactly the same. You will not make one change over the other for each UC campus. So again, just one process for us all. And that application is actually currently open right now for you to work on it as a rough draft version, meaning you can do the whole thing, just not submit it. That submit button will open November 1st, and it will close down on November 30th, 11:59 Pacific time. So please, please, please make sure you submit this at least 2-3 days before. We usually recommend before Thanksgiving so you can have the break, but again, at least 2-3 days before, because if your Wi-Fi goes off, your computer doesn't work, anything happens on that last day, we will not accept your applications. There's just no excuses whatsoever. Main reason for this, most of the UC campuses receive over 100,000 applicants each year. Just to give you an idea, UCSB alone got 105,000 applicants, just first-year students. We got another 30,000 or so for just transfer. So we don't need any more. So that's why make sure you really do complete that application on time, just in case something does happen in that sense. Now, the other thing as well is that within the application, even though it's only one application for all 9 UCs, it does have a cost for each of those UCs you choose. And as you can tell, it is $70 per campus. So as fun as it can be to check mark every single UC campus, it does have that $70 per check mark. So keep that in mind. However, we do have fee waivers. Those fee waivers will automatically be done through the UC application. On that application, it will ask you for some specific family household income information. It's optional. You don't have to submit it. But if you do want to qualify for that waiver, you have to submit that information. I promise it's not for admissions. It's just for the fee waiver. So if you do qualify it, the UC application will let you know that you qualify for that fee waiver, but it only waives up to 4 of those UC campuses, not all 9. So again, that means that it's perfectly fine for you to go for all 9, but 5 of those will be on you, the other 4 on us. The other ways, just in case, I do know is that, for example, College Board or also a couple other specific organizations like your schools, they might actually have waivers for your UC application. So just keep that in mind that there's other alternatives just in case you don't qualify for that UC waiver. Now, at the same time, even though it's only one application as well, that deadline is the only time, basically November 1st through November 30th is going to be the only time that we receive applications. We do not have early decision or early action of any kind. So keep that in mind as well into that. All right, now within your choosing the UC campus, again, we already talked a little bit about this, but kind of re-emphasizing a little bit, is looking at that environment within that UC. What are you looking for within that campus, right? And not just the campus, but also the culture around it. Are you looking for more an urban area, more of a suburban or rural area? So like Merced, for example, or are you looking for something like Berkeley, right in the middle of the city? Do you want to live somewhere close on campus or somewhere close to home as well? Do you want to be further away from home? So again, these are just different kind of questions that we like to ask students, because even though they might not seem important, they are really important for when the student comes to that UC campus and succeeding throughout it, because we want to make sure that you are going to the campus that you really want to, not feeling like you have to in that sense. So again, why is this important? Why is this campus a good fit for me? So be selfish in this case. Now, outside of that, we also do support every single student, regardless of where you're coming from, your background, your identity, your values and goals. We want to make sure that we can support everyone, which is why we also do provide a lot of different support services, organizations, and other type of resources for every group of students, regardless of your identity. So again, keep that in mind. That doesn't matter which UC campus, there's always going to be that cultural diversity office. There's always going to be that academic support. There's always going to be student organizations. Like I mentioned, UCSB has 600. Most UCs have a few hundred at least. That all will be related in somehow or some form to your specific interest and goals. So again, we really want to diversify our campus, but also respect who you are in that sense. So going into that freshman year specific or first year application. So again, it's going to be all about freshman applications. So what constitutes as a first year applicant? In this case, basically you are a first year student if you're in high school, which all of you are in that sense, or you have graduated, but you have not taken any college credits after you have graduated high school. At the same time, if you have taken any college courses or college credits, you are still a first year student. So keep that in mind. We only say this because we do get a lot of students who ask us if they're going to be a transfer status, if they have any college level credits or dual enrollments, but that's not the case. You're still a first year student. So again, you're still allowed to take college credits. At the same time, if you have graduated from high school, you're still able to take college credits this summer right after you graduated, but that's the last chance that you can take college credits to still be considered a first year student and not a transfer student. So keep that in mind. All right, so the minimum requirements is going to be the A through G courses. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with this since all of you are in California. You have a good idea of what they are. But again, you need to have a C- or higher in each of them. If you have a C-, you're good to go. There's no plus-minus system for freshmen. Now, the other thing as well is that we do have some recommended years for some of the subject areas. So as you can tell, science, we recommend 3 years. Language other than English, we recommend 3 years. However, these are just recommendations, not requirements. And at the same time, it does not mean that you have to complete every recommended year either. We understand that might be a lot of work, and you might be more passionate about math rather than science, for example. So in that case, we would encourage you to do 4 years of math over 3 years of science. If you can do both, great. But again, don't stress about trying to meet every recommended year. And I only say this because we do get a lot of students who are also kind of thinking that they have to fulfill every single recommended year when that's not always the case. So again, something to keep in mind as you look into that is feel comfortable as long as you meet the minimum requirements, then try to hit some of those recommended years, but don't need to go for all of them either. All right. And then now there are minimum requirements. It's going to be the GPA. So the GPA for all of you is a minimum of a 3.0. Do not worry about the out of states. Again, all of your in state. So 3.0 is the bare minimum, but of course, the higher, the better for each of the UC campuses. Now, how do we calculate those GPAs? It's going to be out of the grades that you've received in your sophomore and junior years. So 10th and 11th, including the summers before, in between, and after. So if you have any summer courses, we will also add those to the GPA. Now, the other thing as well is that if you have any honors, APs, IBs, college credits, dual enrollments, we will also use those towards the weighted GPA. So again, that's how we calculate the specific math out of the GPA. Now, the other thing as well that probably happened to you or might have happened because of COVID is the PASSER credits. If you have received any PASSER credits, we will use those towards the A through G courses, but just not towards the weighted GPA. So again, for the weighted GPA, we need to have a letter or number grade in that system. For PASSER credits, again, it's not going to hurt your application in any way, but it's just not going to be able to add to the weighted GPA. So again, only re-emphasizing this part because we get a lot of questions. The other thing I want to point out, because I don't have this in the slides, is the fact that we are not, so no UC campus will be using the SAT or SAT at all for the admissions or scholarship process. So we're just not going to use them. For my current seniors, you will see an option to submit that SAT or SAT, but I promise you it is completely optional and it's not for admissions process. It is only if, and it's a big if, you're admitted to a UC campus, you enroll at that UC campus, and on top of that, it will just be to waive out of specific courses, lower division courses that you have to take at each of the UC campuses, such as English level writing. But that is it. So again, there's nothing else that you will be able to get out of this. So again, re-emphasizing this part, it is not a requirement and we're not even going to use it as a recommended thing either. All right, now the next part over is going to be the eligibility in the local context, ELC. Now, we usually get questions about this, but basically what this means is what is your eligibility within being in California? What is your eligibility as a local context? So basically it is you being a California resident, which all of you are, attending an eligible participating high school, which all of you are as well, most likely. I think actually all of you are in that case. And then again, having a College Board School Code, which is the CEEB code, CEEB code, which again, all of you have, and you don't have to worry about this. For a lot of my students or parents, you might be asking, what is this? I've never heard of this thing. Your high school counselors do know what I'm talking about. So again, don't stress too much about this. I'm just giving you additional details so you understand how we do specifically the admissions process. Then of course, having a full list of UC approved courses. Again, all of you do have that because you're in California high schools. And then completing 11 out of the 15 required A through G courses by the beginning of your senior year. So for my seniors, basically you need to have had already 11 of those A through G courses completed by now in this sense. And then of course, earn a UC GPA that meets or exceeds school's benchmarks GPA, which again is that 3.0 or higher at least, and completing the remaining A through G courses by the end of your senior year. So again, it's just kind of basically making sure that you complete those remaining 4 A through G courses you have, and of course, going above and beyond any other things as well. So again, this will just let us know in the application that you are going to be a local context student. Now, why is this important? It's because all the UCs have a policy that we have to reserve at least 84% of our student body for each of the campuses to be from California. So that means that all of you already have a priority in coming to a UC campus over technically out-of-state or international students in terms of the percentage. So again, we have to reserve most of that space for in-state students. And that's because we are a public institution. That means that because our public funding comes from California, we need to reserve most of the spaces for California students. So again, keep that in mind. Now the selection. So the selection is the academics that I just talked about, those minimum requirements, so the GPA and the A through G courses, but it's also really important for us, the non-academic section, which I'll talk about in just a second, but it's the activities, personal insight questions. And the other thing as well, again, is that even though we only use one application for all 9 UCs, we do not collaborate with one another. We do not work with each other. We do not help each other with the application process or the admissions process. We did it on purpose. We added one application to make sure that all of you had an easier time in applying at all of us at the same time. But I promise you, we're selfish in this case. When we're looking at the you as an applicant, I promise you, we're only looking at you for ourselves, and that's it. Yes, technically, we can see which UCs you've applied to, so I can do that actually. But I promise you, we really do not worry about that. We don't even care in that sense. I know for lack of word, I'm saying that, but I want to make sure you all understand that is that we do not look at any other for any other of those reasons. The only reason we may look at which UCs to apply to is just for data for after admissions process, just so we can see where students have been applying to. But that is it. There's no other reason for it. So again, I reemphasize this part because we get a lot of students and hesitation from this because they're worried that because you get admitted to one UC campus, you will not be admitted to another. It is not true. It does not exist. Again, it's a lot of those rumors that we've heard as well. So going into those kind of comprehensive review and the non-academic section as well. So like I mentioned, the academic portion is the GPA, those A through G courses, the ELC, the eligibility in the local context, and those UC approved APs or honor courses, college credits in that sense. But it is critical as well that you really share with us everything else you've done outside of studying. So that might mean doing, for the activity section, sports, leadership organization, marching band, just to name a few within high school. But don't forget about everything you've done outside of high school. So this can mean all the way from traveling the world, doing jobs, internships, nannying, taking care of your siblings because your parents needed help. All these additional things that you do outside of studying is really important for us to give us context with your specific grades and courses you've taken. How I like to put it is, if you're taking time away from studying, what are you doing with that free time? Are you taking advantage of it to go and take a nap, or actually are you being proactive with it? Now, I'm not saying don't take a nap, enjoy life as well. I've been there, but again, make sure you really let us know about everything else you've done. The more information, the better it is for us. Now, the other thing as well is going to be those PIQs, personal insight questions. Within the PIQs, you will see that there's 8 different questions, and all of you can only answer 4 of those, no more, no less. We did this on purpose because we want you to choose the ones that you feel like you can answer best to us. So do not try to choose the one that you think look better, the one that you think is going to be overall better and more competitive, or the one that you think your friends are doing, so you should do that one as well. It doesn't exist. So make sure you really choose the ones that you feel like you can share the most with us. Within each of those PIQs as well, you can only write 350 words. It's not a lot. And again, we did this on purpose because we do not want essays, we do not want creative writing, we do not want poems. As much as I would love to read those creative writings, it basically tells us one thing about yourself. You're creative, which is great, but again, it doesn't give us the full picture of who you are. So instead, treat the application as an interview style process. If you're going to any interview, how would you answer those questions? Definitely not by telling them a poem, right? You would tell them who you are, where you've been, where you're going, assets, skills. That's exactly what we want out of this PIQs. So again, the more information, the better. The last one with the PIQs is I want you all to be extremely selfish. I know it sounds weird. It's the opposite of what people tell you to do, but I want you to be selfish. I want you to write I, me, and my statements as many times as possible. Because again, the more information we can have from you, the better it is. So we can learn about you, not anybody else. All right. Just to keep on going a little bit more. Actually, one last thing I forgot to mention is the additional comment section, because I did not have it on the slide either. So the additional comment section is going to be something that you will see at the end of the application. I promise you, it's completely optional. You do not have to add anything in there if you do not want to. So do not write, for example, thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing back from you, because let's be honest, we know you look forward to hearing back from us. You want to know if you got in or not, right? So again, don't worry about that stuff. Instead, focus specifically on yourself and really share more information about, again, what you really need to share with us that you have not done so before in the application. So just to give you some examples, this might mean as simple as writing, my school only offered 3 APs, period. That's all we need. We don't need anything else. With that information, now we know it's not that you didn't want to take more APs, you just couldn't. It's out of your control, right? What your school offers or not. At the same time, it can be life-changing events. So it could be about the fires that unfortunately happen every single year in California. It could be about COVID. It could be about the power outages that happen as well throughout California. It could be about an injury. And because of that injury, now you can't play a sport. But instead, now you're deciding to be assistant coach. So again, you're still participating with that team, but just not playing. So I'm just giving you different examples so you get an idea of really what we're looking for within that additional comment section. All right, now officially going into the transfer admissions. I'll keep this kind of on the shorter side, just because I know all of you are in high school. But again, I just want to give you some ideas of, in case you want to go the transfer route, which is a great alternative, how does that work and what it looks like. So to be a transfer applicant, kind of what we talked about with the high school students, if you're considered a high school or transfer, same concept. So to be a transfer student, it means that you have graduated from high school and you have enrolled and taken and received credits from another university or college. Doesn't matter which one. It could be another UC, it could be a California community college, it could be a private school. It doesn't matter. So that will make you a transfer student. So again, keep that in mind that it's not about how many credits you have in high school. It's about graduating from high school and attending another university. Now, the minimum requirements, you're going to have the 7-course pattern. So the 7-course pattern is basically the A through G courses, same concept, but for the transfer level. So for the college level, that means. So again, just keeping in mind that you will have to take some English, math courses, and some other courses as well. At the same time, you need to have at least 60 or 90 quarter units. If you are a high school student who has already 20, 30, 40 different credits because of dual enrollment, you can add those to the 60, 90 quarter units as long as they're UC transferable, right? So that's the only thing to keep in mind. But so that means that instead of for you to take 2 years to transfer, it might take you a year, year and a half, maybe. The other thing as well is that you need to have at least a 2.4 GPA. Do not worry about the 2.8. Again, that's for out of state, but for all of you, it's a minimum of a 2.4. So again, keep that in mind. And then what we're looking for is the selection. So we're looking at the major prep work. What this means is that for some specific majors at some specific UC campuses, you will need to take specific courses at the college level to be able to transfer to a specific major. So keep that in mind. At the same time, to be competitive GPA, this will vary by the specific UC campus. So for example, at UCSB, we look for a 3.4 or higher GPA. That's to be competitive within the transfer students. But for some other UCs, that might mean a 2.4, some other ones might be a 2.8, 3.0, so on and so forth. So again, keep that in mind. And then of course, the IGETC. So one thing that we get a lot of questions, even as a high school student, is the IGETC. We do not need or require the IGETC. We do use it if you do have it, but we don't need it. The IGETC, just in short, basically is just specific courses that you're taking, and it shows to us that you have taken those courses to transfer in correctly. A lot of high school students will also have this IGETC kind of partly already done because of college credits or dual enrollments. But again, you don't have to worry about it. It's not a requirement. So again, something to keep in mind. All right, and then last two resources or main things I want to point out. One of them is going to be TAP, so Transfer Admissions Planner. Again, this is for when you're in college. Don't worry too much about it right now, but I just want to make sure you have those resources in case you do decide to go that route. So within TAP, basically is going to be a resource that is extremely helpful for students to really plan everything that they need to do, they have done, and if they're on track to transfer into a UC campus correctly. I'll be honest, one of the easiest reasons why we don't accept students, it's simply because they just did not follow the specific kind of courses that we needed them to take. We know they can pass the courses and we know they can have that GPA that we're looking for, but they just don't get admitted because of simple errors that could have been avoided if they asked a counselor either at the college or at the universities like the UC. We have transfer admissions counselors as well that can help you with that process, all the way to using resources like this, TAP. So again, make sure that if you're thinking about transferring, just keep communicated. Let us know because that will really help us. But the other thing that I think is even more important, this is to me my favorite specific resource, is going to be the TAG program. So Transfer Admissions Guarantee. If you have not heard of this, please make sure you remember this, especially if you're a high school senior right now and you're thinking about transferring. How it works is that if you go to any California community college, doesn't matter which one, so any of the CCCs, whether it's by your home or in San Diego if you wanted to, and you have at least a 3.4 GPA or higher, and you pass the classes that you have for your specific major, you will get guaranteed admissions to one of the UCs that you see here on the screen. As you can tell, it's 6 of the 9 UCs. The only UCs that do not have TAG are Berkeley, LA, and San Diego. Those 3 do not have TAG, but otherwise all of us have it. So again, make sure you look into that. Now, you don't have to worry too much about the filing period because you still have time. Just keep in mind that you do have to submit that TAG application in the September before you come into that UC campus. The best part about it is that if you have this TAG program, you will have to do the UC application, but I promise you, we're barely looking at it because you meet the TAG. So again, it's the easiest way to transfer into a specific UC campus. So that's why I always encourage it. And I always remind students because I want to make sure you don't forget about this easy process in this sense. All right, and I kind of actually just went a little bit ahead of it, but again, meeting the GPAs and all that stuff. So actually the 3.4 is specifically for UCSB. The GPA will vary by the UC campus. So it's a 2.7 through a 3.5. So that was the main correction that I wanted to make sure. So again, definitely talk to each of the UC campuses if you're thinking about them, just to make sure that if you can meet the TAG or not. All right, and then just to finish it off, just a little bit more about the value of a UC campus. So within the UC system, the main things that we like to keep in mind is that we have actually set a tuition stability plan. And what this means is that tuition, obviously, as you all know, probably has been increasing for most, if not all of the universities. So what this means is that once you start and enroll at that UC campus, that tuition will freeze where it is. So we're not going to increase the tuition each single year. Even if it increases for future students, it's not going to increase for you as a current student. So that means that you can already know for sure how much it's going to cost you from your freshman year till you graduate. So keep that in mind. So that's the main thing that we wanted to keep this in mind, is that we really try to provide as many scholarships and opportunities to make it as easy as possible with tuition, especially knowing how expensive it can be for anyone in that sense. So again, that's something to keep in mind. All right, and then this will actually show you a little bit of how much it would cost for you as a California resident to be a UC or UC student in general. So again, this is just an average between all of the UCs, how much it may cost you. And again, one thing I like to point out, even though I show these graphs, I'm personally sometimes a little bit kind of hesitant to really look at them and really like take it on, because a lot of these numbers can be really changed a lot. So for example, the main thing to keep in mind when you're looking at tuition is the fixed cost, meaning that there's no way around it other than you pay for it or scholarships. That's going to be tuition and fees. That's the bulk of it, right? So 38% goes into tuition and fees of everything that you pay within a UC experience. So that's about $14,000 per year. And again, it's $14,000 for the whole year, but this is a fixed number. So this is for sure guaranteed that you don't have to pay for it. However, the other numbers are going to vary a lot. So room and board, for example, some UC campuses require your first year to live on campus. So you could be thinking of $17,000 as a fixed number. And again, room and board also includes food and meals for the whole year. However, UCSB, for example, does not require students to live on campus. So that might mean that you can completely waive that $17,000. Of course, you have to live somewhere, so you can still add those costs, but you might be able to pay less for it, right? Because you might have a family member that lives around the area. You might be living with 5 different roommates, so your rent got lower. Again, so different things to keep in mind, as that will look different for each of you. The other thing as well is books and supplies, personal transportation, healthcare fees. Honestly, sometimes these numbers can be very different from what you really are needing or having. So keep that in mind. So some of you, for example, you're under your parents' healthcare. So as long as your company, for example, if the company is paying for the health insurance of your family, then you can waive that $2,700, right? That doesn't exist. Obviously, if there are medical bills, different story, but again, you will have that insurance. Books and supplies. Not every professor will require a single book, or they might not require as many books. So you might be able to find cheaper ways. You might be able to go to Amazon. Maybe you have a sibling that already had the book. Again, I'm giving you different examples just to really make sure that you think about the fixed numbers versus the indirect numbers. So direct versus indirect. So direct are tuition and fees and room and board if you're going to live on campus. Indirect costs are basically everything else. So again, something to keep in mind. All right, and then so as I talked about, within the UC system, we really care about scholarships and financial aid. So as you can tell here, 49% of our students, again, this is across the whole UC system, have no debt at all. That's because of the scholarships that they received, or also some support within just paying it off as you're in college. 55% of students actually pay zero tuition. That's because of the amount of scholarships again. And of course, because of everything together, you can add up as well as 71% of students get either grants or scholarships in some form or another, just from the UC systems. This is not including specific private scholarships. So keep in mind that there's a lot of private scholarships that all of you can still bring in as well to the UC campus. For this, I always recommend talk to your high school counselors. They have a ton of amount of resources and they will support you with that process to finding those scholarships. So make sure you keep that in mind. All right, and then just a couple of resources here just to make sure. If you want to take a picture of it, definitely do so, just because I don't want to read out the whole link for you all. But easiest way, and this is going to be my cheat basically with what I do. When I have students or parents asking me for specific resources, I kid you not, this is what I do. I put UCSB or the university that you're looking for. So UCLA, UC Berkeley, whatever's the case, followed by whatever you're looking for. So if you're looking for scholarships, just put UCSB scholarships. If you're looking for the application process, put UC, make it generic UC application. The first thing that shows up almost every time is going to be the specific resource that you're looking for. So again, just kind of a little tip that I like to give to others, because kid you not, this is what I do and all my colleagues at all the UCs do as well. All right, sorry about that. So again, if you do have any questions, I do represent your specific area as well. So if you have any questions about UCSB or the application process, please email me directly. I'm more than glad to help you out. So take a picture of this, write it down, tattoo it on your arm, whatever you need to do with it. I'm more than glad to help you out. Your counselors do have my email as well, just in case. However, if you have specific questions about specific UC campuses, please email them directly, because I will most likely not have the answer for you. Not because I don't want it, it's just because there's a lot of information between 9 UCs and I need to remember everything just for our campus. So again, if you have any specific questions about UC campuses, then make sure you look into them. But if you're looking at UCSB, feel free to ask me as well. All right, with that being said, I know we still have a good amount of time for any specific questions, so I'll go into them. So overall, what should I do if my GPA gets dragged down by my 2020 grades? Are college going to be more lenient on that? So it's going to be all about context in this case. It's hard for me to tell you if we're going to be more lenient or not, because it depends on what you share with us. What's really important in this case is that if, for example, your junior year, you had nothing but pass or credits, right? That means that your GPA got stuck with what you had in sophomore year. Now, I know that sounds horrible, but unfortunately, that's the reality. So what we need you to do instead is write in the additional comment sections, in the PIQs, in the activities, show us why those grades were where they are on your sophomore year, right? Explain to us your situation. Explain to us what happened to you. How did you get affected academically or non-academically? But again, the more information, the better in this case. But again, unfortunately, it's one of those unfortunate things that I just don't have anything better to say, just because it's just a policy that the UCOP decided to do. When I say UCOP, this means University of California Office of the President. So as you might have already heard, within the UC campuses, we actually have chancellors, not presidents. The reason for that is that the president is part of UCOP. They oversee every UC campus, and they make the decisions on how we're going to look at the application process, on what is done and not done in that sense. So that's why, unfortunately, that's one of those things that UCOP decided to do in this case. All right, next question. What percentage of incoming students or admissions, will be allotted for Californian in-state applicants? So actually, this is a policy. So I have the specific percentage for you all. The specific percentage that we need to have that we allow California students to be in our campus. Let me restart this one. I'm making it all worse in this case. So 84% of our students at each of the UC campuses have to be California students. The reason for this is that we're a public institution, so we have to give priority to California residents. So again, all of you, because you're in California, you are within that 84%. So don't worry about that. That 16% leftover is for any out-of-state or international students, or for more in-state students. So if we don't have enough out-of-state students, we'll go for more California students. So again, keep that in mind. All right, next one. Is there an easier and harder major and you think that you think you can get into both? It's a good idea to get into harder major, and if you can handle that, switch to the easier major. I think this one has a lot of variables depending on the specific university that you're going to, so which UC you're applying to. So basically I'll go into the application process and how that works. So for each of the UC campuses, except Berkeley, you're gonna get to pick 2 majors, your primary and your secondary major. Again, Berkeley only has 1. So for all the other 8 UCs, you're gonna choose, what we recommend is that the first choice major is the one that is more competitive to get into. Not necessarily harder in the sense that it's gonna be harder academically, just harder to get into. So for example, UCSB and most UC campuses, the College of Engineering, specifically computer science and computer engineering, are the most competitive usually. So for UCSB, just to give you an example, College of Engineering, we want you to put that as your first choice major, because we are not going to be looking at students who are not having that as their first choice major. For your second choice major, though, we want you to choose something in the College of Letters and Science. Again, this is for our campus. For other campuses, it might be a different college. So ask each counselor how they want to see this. So again, that might mean that it's a little bit easier to get into. We do this on purpose because, again, just like you mentioned, we know it's very competitive and hard sometimes to get into a specific campus. Or a specific major, sorry, that's what I meant to say. So that's why I go for that harder major to get into. Not that it's academically harder, just admissions harder in that sense. Good question though. The other question as well to follow up with your either counselors for each of the UC campuses is asking them how hard is it to switch majors within the colleges or the majors. That's going to be a different conversation, and that will vary a lot by the majors that you want to get into or transfer into and the UC campus you're applying to. So again, something to keep in mind. Good question. All right, next one. Our 8 credits. I see, Laura, I don't know if you're typing that one or not, but just in case, our 8 credits accepted for visual arts and performing arts took 1 community college class. So if you took 1 community college class, so basically 1 semester, that counts as 1 year out of the visual performing arts. So yes, basically the answer is that will count for you. So actually this goes for any of the other subject areas as well. So if you take 1 community college for 1 semester, it usually counts towards 1 full year of that subject area, as long as it's a UC approved course. So just make sure you do that. But in your case, yes, the answer is yes in this case. Is passing physics course a pre-requirement for the UC system? My daughter passed calculus and biology honors, but is struggling with physics. Must she pass physics in order to have a chance to be admitted to a UC campus? So I think based on you're saying biology is not part of the math requirement, so that would not really play into that role. However, physics, it is in the science. Sorry, I'm getting confused with calculus. Calculus is in the math. So for physics, and as long as you have biology and physics, you will be good. You can also have biology and, oh man, I'm forgetting the other one. What is the third one? Chemistry, thank you. I was like spacing out on it. So as long as you have biology and chemistry, that will also complete the science requirements. However, you need to have at least 2 out of the 3. So biology, physics, chemistry, biology. Calculus, though, is not part of the science requirement. It's just through the math requirements. Good question, though. And thanks for the help. What's the average GPA for actual admitted students? The average GPA will vary a lot by the specific UC campus. So ask each one to tell you what that looks like. So for example, a UCSB, our specific average GPA from last specific year was 4.37. We just updated it. So I'm trying to remember, it was 4.37 around there. So it went a little bit higher than the year before that. So it is going to be on the higher side. Most UCs are on the higher side, but again, every UC will be different in that sense. Actually, there's a lot of resources, and if you ask every counselor, they will tell you usually. Do you consider AP exam results in the application process? We do. Even if, so I'll put a couple things with this one. If you have a 3 or higher on an AP exam and it's a UC transferable exam, we will actually transfer those credits. 3 or higher, that's all you need. However, if you have a 1 or a 2, we still want you to submit those AP exams into the UC application. The reason for this is that the UC application is additive. What this means is that we can only add points to your GPA, GPA, to your application. Never take points away from the actual application. So worst case is if we see an AP with a 1, instead of saying, this is horrible, let's take points away, what we're doing is this student took the time and effort to take something above and beyond their minimum requirements to graduate from high school. And even though it was not a 3 or higher, it still shows that you took that commitment and time to do that exam. So please make sure you add those exams, even if you think you did horrible in that case. I only say that because we get a lot of kind of questions or comments like that. So again, feel comfortable to really add everything. The more, the merrier for the application. Remember that. All right, next one. Does the ELC mean that the UC system will prefer much those who live closer to the UCs? No, not closer to UC campuses. So sorry about that if that kind of came off the wrong way. So ELC just means basically you in California. The presentation that I used today is actually the official one that I'm supposed to use because it's for the UC system, and we use this for out-of-state students as well. So this is more for, the ELC is more for out-of-state students, honestly. You all do not really have to worry about this because you fulfill basically everything just by being in California and going to a high school in California. So it does not matter your physical location to a UC campus. It's just you physically being in California. Doesn't matter where. You might be all the way in the north side of California, and you're still good in that sense. So again, I'm sorry if I did confuse a little bit with that, but this is more for out-of-state students since it's a different process for them in that sense. Not process, but understanding in that sense. Good question though. Next one, the UCs look at 7th semester grades for admissions decision. So the only one, so this is for 7th and 8th grade. Or sorry, 7th semester grades. I thought 7th and 8th grade. So 7th semester, we will look at the courses you're taking, but again, because you're in senior year, we're not going to be looking at the grades since we just don't have them. So how it works instead is we're looking at the courses you've taken or you're taking, and are they more progressive or more challenging in nature than the ones you've taken in the past? So we know, again, we won't use the grades because we don't have them, but we're looking for that rigorousness. We want to see that you are kind of in an upward bound trend in the sense of you started off with kind of the more, not necessarily basic, but easier classes because obviously you're in freshman year, and how you're progressing. So if you took math 1, we want to see math 2, math 3, math 4, so on and so forth. So again, we want to see that progression in that sense. So again, no grades, but we will look at the courses. However, once you're admitted to a UC campus, we will look at those grades because we need the official transcripts. Just keep in mind that if you fail too many courses, they can, or as a UC campus, can rescind your invitation. However, don't worry about this. I know none of you are going to go through that, but just to understand that that's how it does work. So still take care of those classes. Make sure you do pass those courses. But again, that's how we're looking at it. Next one, does the UC system make admissions decisions based on the student's high school, e.g. some number of guaranteed slots per high school? No, great question. So no UC campus will, basically you're not going to be competing with anyone. Doesn't matter if it's your best friend, if it's your twin sibling, you do not compete with anyone. When we read the applications, we literally look at you as an individual and that's it, period. So if 100 students apply from your school and all 100 are great candidates, we're going to accept all 100 of them. If none of them are great, then we're not accepting anyone. Again, that's not going to be the case, but again, we just want to make sure you understand how that works. So really feel comfortable to know that you're not competing to the person that you see to your right or your left. You're really competing against yourself, and that is it. So feel comfortable with that. Good question though, because we do get a lot of myths out of that. So I want to make sure none of you think of anything else in that sense. Is there a quota, soft or hard, per high school? Okay, so another question just came right after. So no, I did not answer to that. So do the UCs compare applicants with their applicants? So I now just answer that question. So same thing, again, we're not comparing any students to any other students, regardless of location, siblings, status, nothing. Is there a place to see all the impacted majors for each campus? That's a good question. I don't know if every campus has those. Usually in the admissions websites, they tend to have something along the lines that tells you. However, sometimes we don't call them impacted. So UCSB, for example, instead of calling it impacted, we call it selective majors. We just like to make things difficult for everyone. But again, so selective is what we call them at UCSB. So you might hear both terms in that sense. Either way, if you ask any of the admissions counselors, we will know what you're asking for. So they will let you know which ones. So again, for UCSB, it's only the College of Engineering. However, for other UCs, they might include engineering and the sciences and so on and so forth. So that's why it's a good question to ask everyone. I just don't know if we have a specific website for all of those in that sense. Next one is only high school timeframe volunteer experience taken into account for admissions into UC system. How about volunteer experience during middle school timeframe? So not just for volunteering, I'll just use this as a question for any type of activity and involvement. Doesn't matter what it is. What we're looking for specifically is your high school timeframe. So the reason for this is that we're looking at you for who you are today, not for who you were and who you're going to be. I say this because a lot of students will talk to us in future tense. Neither you or I know what's going to happen in the next few years. So don't worry about the future, focus on the present. The only exception to this rule is if you've been doing a specific activity for many years. So for example, usually I see this with sports or arts, right? So music, dance, theater. If you have been doing something since you were like 5 years old, let us know in the application. Just write a quick sentence saying, been doing this since 5 years old, period. I'm not exaggerating. That's how simple we want it. With that information, we know that you've been participating since that old and you've been doing it throughout high school. That gives us a little bit of longevity, but you're still focusing primarily on the high school timeframe. So when you talk about the activity, we want you to still focus on that high school. What are you doing now with that activity? Not what you did. Just let us know you've been doing it, but that's it. Good question though. Next one, does taking a campus tour be taken into account in admissions? Good question. So this is actually related to demonstrated interest. Just in case anyone doesn't know what this means, demonstrated interest means that you are basically showing a university that you really care about them. And so you are attending their webinars, you are going to tours, you're just communicating to admissions counselors just to let them know who you are. For some private universities, they use demonstrated interest. So ask demonstrated interest if they use it or not. For the UC system, nor the CSUs actually, we do not use demonstrated interest, meaning that if you take a tour, that's great. And we want you to do it just so you can see if this is the right fit for you. But it's not going to help you. It's not going to make the application a better situation for you. It's not going to help your chances. So great question though, but no UC campus will be using demonstrated interest at all. So if you want to contact us, please do so. Ask us questions. We'll be glad to help out. But don't send us an email just to say, hi, hope you're doing well, right? As much as I like that, we don't need that in that sense. And going off of that one, just because it always reminds me, with demonstrated interest is also legacy. Legacy is basically when a student is a second, third, fourth, fifth generation of a family member who has been going to that university. Some private universities use them legacy as well. The UCs do not. So I only say this because usually the two come together with the questions. But again, we do not use legacy. So even if your great-great-great-grandfather was the founder of a UC campus, you still have no better chances to get in. Again, so nothing to worry about in that sense. All right, next one. How do UC honors program work? When do you apply and when are some of the advantages of being part of them? So the specific kind of benefits will vary a little bit. Usually they're kind of standard across the board, but they may vary a little bit for each campus. So check on that. However, all of you will be already being enrolled in the honors program. So you're going to be applying not only to the UC campus, you're also going to be applying to the honors program. What happens is if you're being admitted and you decide to enroll, that UC campus will let you know if you've been accepted to the honors program or not. So for example, at UCSB, the only case that would happen is if you're applying to the College of Letters and Science or College of Engineering. Those two colleges have honors. College of Credit Studies does not. But again, if you've been admitted, we will let you know if you've been accepted to the honors program. So all of you are automatically enrolled into that program. However, if you do not get accepted into the honors at first and you want to still apply, I think most, if not all of the UCs, but again, check with each campus, they will actually allow you to reapply to the honors program after your first either semester or year. So again, something to look into that as well. Good question. Next one is, I heard that some are the UCs are trying to get out of the tag. Is that true? Oh, that some UCs are actually trying to get out. No, it's not true at all. Actually, there's conversations. This is long conversation, so don't expect it for anytime soon, but we're actually trying to get the other 3 UCs to join the tag. So definitely no conversation about UCs leaving the tag program. So you can definitely still feel good about applying to the tag program if you're thinking about transferring. Is the SAT not considered for fall 2022 admissions only? No, so actually SAT or SAT will not be considered basically from now to the foreseeable future. I want to say forever because you never know, but 2022, 2023, and 2024, for sure not. After 2024, it's definitely not going to be the SAT or SAT. There's just conversation right now if we're going to use another standardized exam or if there's going to be no standardized exam. UCOP is making that decision right now, so they're working on that, on what that would look like, but definitely not the SAT or SAT. So if you are a junior, sophomore, or freshman, you don't have to worry about them either. Good question. Next one, what did he say was the GPA requirement for UC application? What years are counted? So it was a 3.0 is the bare minimum GPA that we're looking for. But again, the higher, the better. The years that we use to calculate the GPA are going to be specifically the sophomore and junior years. So 10th and 11th grades, including the summers before, in between, and after. So those 2 years and everything in between is going to be specifically going towards the weighted GPA. And again, 3.0 is the bare minimum. We only do weighted, do not worry about unweighted. Can the students receive tag from multiple UCs, example, Davis and Irvine, or is tag only given by one of the UCs for each candidate? So it's not given by a UC campus, it's actually the other way around. You actually decide which one you want to tag to. Unfortunately, you can only tag to one UC campus. You can still apply to the other one. So don't feel like you tag to one and you ruin your chances for the others. Tag just means that you can you will get guaranteed admissions to that one UC campus that you are choosing to use tag for. So for example, I could use tag for UCSB, but not for the other ones. So it's only one in that sense. But again, you're choosing, not us for you. Next one, if the student is covered under parents' insurance, can the healthcare fee be waived? Yes, of course. So for any UC campus, you just have to go talk. This all happens after you've been admitted, so don't worry about this right now. But once you've been admitted, you just talk to the health advisors or the health center. Everybody will have a different name to them. We will let you know what the process is, but they will let you know that you can just add your family insurance. You will have to have an insurance either way, though. So you cannot waive it in the sense of not having any insurance, but you need, as long as you have a family one, you can use that one as well. Good question. Next one, do any of the campuses have a deferred enrollment program? No, unfortunately, we do not have deferment, so just keep that in mind. However, let's say you've been admitted to a UC campus and then you're like, I want to take a gap year. That's perfectly fine. You will have to basically rescind your invitation, so say no to us. Don't worry, this is not going to hurt your chances, I promise you. After that gap year, you're going to reapply to that UC campus. Again, it's not a guaranteed admissions. However, we tend to be more likely inclined to say yes, only because not much has changed from your application. So if we admitted you once, we don't see much reasons why we wouldn't accept you, unless of course we got other students and because of that, right? So again, it's not a guaranteed admissions, but just keep in mind that you can definitely say no to us and then reapply, and it's not going to hurt your chances. So keep that in mind. Next one, if you do a gap year, do you apply after the gap year or before and write it on your application? For the gap year, you're going to do it after. Do not worry about doing it before, since we don't have a deferment program. We don't want it before just because it's not going to make a difference. Again, one thing to keep in mind though with gap year, even though there's nothing wrong with it, so please do so if you want to, is that gap year means that you're really going to take a break from any school related work. So if, again, to be considered a first year student, you cannot take any or receive any credits at all from any college. So just keep that in mind. If you take a gap year and throughout that gap year, you take college credits, you will automatically be considered a transfer student, meaning that you have to meet all of the transfer admissions requirements. So again, something to keep in mind, nothing wrong with it, just something to keep in mind. All right, next one. If my first language isn't English and I attended high school out of the States for several years before I came to LAHS, which language will be counted as a language other than English, and how will the year be counted? Good question. So this is a lot of like specifics that we need more information about, but basically how it works is, if you're in a different state, not a different country, a different state, obviously we're going to be looking at English. But if you are in a different country, for example, your primary language that you're using at that different high school, at a different country, that will basically be English for us. And then language other than English would be that other language that you take. So for example, hopefully this will make it more simple. If you are in France, right, you've been in France for 2-3 years, doesn't matter how many, French becomes English. So the English requirements, the 4 years of English will be for you, the 4 years of French. And if you take any English courses at that French school, then those English courses become the language other than English. I know it sounds a little bit confusing because I'm kind of talking about both, but if you're in a different country, you're just flipping them in that sense. At the same time, the other thing as well is if you're in a different state, we're going to be looking at the same thing. So this one, if you're looking about a different state within the US, this will be a little bit different since you're saying that your English is not your first language. So I'm not sure what language you will be doing at that high school. So that's why it's something to look into. But definitely you can always email us and we can figure that out as well for you. So hopefully that helped a little bit. What's the cap GPA? So for the UCs, technically it's a 4.4 is the cap GPA. However, if you go above that, we will see that on the application. Obviously, we're not going to use that as a GPA, but we'll see that the grades add up to over 4.4. So just keep that in mind. But again, 4.4 is technically the cap for the UCs. And sorry, I keep on moving the mouse. I'm sure you can all see that. It's just my mouse disappears when I don't use it. Does not declaring my major during admissions negatively impact my application? No, not at all. So actually all the UCs have a undeclared option, and we did this on purpose because we want you to choose undeclared if that's the case. Actually, fun fact, statistically speaking, out of the whole universities in the whole country, students who come in undeclared, they tend to graduate quicker than students who come in with a declared major. So that's because students who come in undeclared, since they're still taking courses they have to take for any of the majors, they're basically on track to graduate on time, regardless of what major you choose. However, again, this is on average. On the other hand, if you're choosing a major and you come in with a major, but then you switch to something completely different, you're gonna have to retake specific courses because some of the courses you took for that original major have nothing to do with the other major. So again, definitely feel comfortable to really choose undeclared. I promise you, as I read the applications, we look at you the same way as anybody else. You're gonna have any less chances in that sense. Does affirmative action affect acceptance rates? No, because we're not using affirmative action. So again, keep that in mind that we're not using race, ethnicity, gender, any kind of identifying specific factor. We're not using them towards the acceptance or admissions process or scholarships. A lot of different options, but again, we're not using them for any of them. So feel comfortable. On the application, we will ask for some identifying specific questions, but I promise you it's only just mainly for data in the terms of knowing who are the students that are coming to our campuses, but we're not using them at all for the admissions process. Good question though. Next one, if I have a certain GPA, am I guaranteed acceptance into at least one UC? So not because of the GPA. So because of GPA, you're not gonna get guaranteed to any one UC campus. However, we do have, since all of you are in California, we do have what's called the top 9%. So top 9%, what this means is that if you are a top 9% student within your school, you will get guaranteed admissions to a UC campus. However, I want to make this clear, it does not guarantee you to a UC campus that you apply to or that you want to go to. So this might mean that if you apply to 6 UCs, and you're top 9%, you might get admitted, you will get admitted to one of the UCs, but it might be one of those 3 that you did not apply to. So again, just something to keep in mind about that. For all of you, because I usually get questions about this after, do not worry about doing the top 9%. Don't try to do the math. Don't do any of that. We will automatically do this for you on the UC application. If you're curious to see what if you are and what if, and if you are part of that 9%, what percentage you have, once you submit the UC application, if you log back out and you log back in, the application will actually update basically itself, and it will automatically tell you what percentage you are if you are within the top 9. If you don't see the top 9%, like 987, that means that you're not part of the top 9%. However, it doesn't mean that you can't get admitted. We admit way too many students who are not part of the top 9%. So again, keep that in mind that there's nothing wrong with that as well. Is it hard to get classes? Are they impacted? This will vary a lot by the UC campus and the specific major and classes you're taking. There's a lot of variables for me to answer that one specifically. So it will really depend on you talking about to each admissions counselors and what that looks like. For UCSB though, for the most part, it is not. It's not hard to get to classes. One thing I do recommend though, and this is across the board for any UC campuses or most universities actually, we always tell students, you might not be able to take the class that you really want at the time that you want. However, you will be able to take the course you want, just maybe in a different quarter or a different semester. So again, just keep that in mind that you will be able to take those courses and graduate on time, but you just might not be able to take the courses that you really want at that specific time. So that's the main thing I want to keep in mind. But usually at the UCs, we're pretty good at making sure you take the courses since we don't want to place you behind because of our fault. So hopefully that answers a little bit, but again, it will vary a lot by the major and campus. How are the AP exam scores used towards the GPA? Is there a formula? Basically, if you have a 3 or higher in the APs, it will give you an additional point towards the weighted GPA. That's really going to be the easiest way to put it. So again, keep that in mind. If not, if you just put UC calculator, GPA calculator, I'm trying to remember what it was called, on any search engine, actually there, it tells you exactly how you can calculate everything, just in case you're looking at different scores and stuff like that. Just to keep it simple. If you have a 3 or higher on the AP exams, we will add a point to your weighted GPA. So again, something to keep in mind. Good questions. My daughter took biology freshman year and physical science sophomore year, which was one semester physics and 1 semester chemistry. Does she need to explain this on her transcripts? In this case, I would recommend that you do. Actually, we will see this. You can if you want to. I was just reading it, so now that I reread it, you don't have to, but if you want to explain it on the application, it just helps us kind of read it easier in that sense. But we have had students who take 2 semesters in 2 different years. So don't worry about it in that sense. But if you want to, it doesn't hurt. I'll put it that way. Good question. Next one is, if you are in a dual enrollment, do you only list the college courses you are currently enrolled in? No, list everything you have taken and everything you're enrolled. And if you're planning to take any courses that you are for sure going to be taking, and not the ones that you're like, maybe, definitely put those on the application. So again, everything you've taken, whether it's you're currently enrolled or the ones in the past, make sure you add everything. So that helps us understand better of what you're doing and where you're going with that in that sense. All right, next one. Actually, I know it's 8 p.m. I just didn't even realize how time the fast. Do you want to keep on going with questions? Stop it here.
It's really up to you if you feel like you want to go for maybe 5 more minutes, but you've done an amazing job. So I totally understand if you're ready to call it a night.
No, that's perfect, Laura. Okay, I'll finish. I'll do 2 or 3 more questions and then I'll wrap it up in that case.
Great.
So I can do a speed round, or maybe I can get more through this. I transferred from a high school that didn't offer APs to Mount View High School, which does offer APs. As admissions office considered that my GPA will appear lower than my peers because I wasn't eligible for a GPA boost from my previous school classes. We will consider this as long as, the most important part, you share this on the application. So make sure you let us know that your previous school did not offer any APs. Again, it's not your fault that you didn't have those options. It's out of your control what your school offers, right? So again, make sure you give us that context. In the additional comment section, just a quick line, just like you did here, that will help us to understand that. So it will not hurt you. It actually helps you in that sense. What is the quota for the freshman class? If any, we don't necessarily have a quota. It really varies every year, and every campus will have different kind of numbers that we're looking for. So it really will vary a lot. For UCSB, on average, it's about 30,000 students that we admit, and about 5,000 enroll, just to give you some idea. But that's UCSB. So again, every campus will be a little bit different. All right, next one. If you put a course for 8th semester on the application and then do not take that course in 8th semester, is there any consequences? No. However, what we do want is that if you, and this is very common, so we understand this happens, as long as you're still meeting the minimum requirements, you're good to go with that. However, just email us to the each UC campus that you apply to, but after you've been admitted. If you've not been admitted, I know it sounds horrible, but unfortunately, you're just not admitted, so it's not going to make much of a difference. But if you've been admitted to a UC campus, let us know. That will actually give us an idea so that when we receive the official transcripts, it doesn't catch us off surprise. So again, just let us know, not a big deal in that sense. We have been told you have to be top 10% of your high school to have a good chance of getting in. Not true at all, because again, we're using the non-academic factors. So again, as long as we put everything together, you will be able to have a chance as well. I don't want to say you will get in, because it will depend a lot. But again, it's not true that you need to be top 10% to get admitted. Not true, not even a little bit. Actually, we've had a lot of students who were not even in the top 10% and they had a really good chance because of other reasons. So keep that in mind. You made a comment that we're not competing with our classmates. How is that true? So you're not competing in terms of admissions, in the sense that we're looking for you. So if you're a great candidate and we think you're amazing, we're going to admit you. And if 5, 6, 7, 20 different classmates in the same school are all great, amazing as well, we will accept them. That's the reality. That's how that works. Instead of us looking at, we're only going to have 2 students from this school and 3 from that school. Because in that case, if we do that, then we might be admitting students who we really do not want. And we're just doing it because we're putting numbers into schools. So again, that's why if 100 students from your school are great, we will admit all 100. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Next one is visible improvement in academic performance counted for the admissions process. Yes, I'll keep it short just to keep on going a little bit more. Next one, does an incomplete grade affect admissions? An incomplete grade it can affect admissions. That's a short answer, but there's a lot of variables to it. So give us that perspective, right? Explain to us, why is it incomplete? What did you do to overcome it? What did you do to maybe compensate for that incomplete? So it can affect, but I don't want to say it's negative, because there might be different reasons why you didn't complete it. If we are to send SAT scores from College Board, do we send it to all the UCs or only one? Because we're not using them anymore, I would recommend you send to each one. We used to just do it one for all of us, but again, because we're not using SATs, I would recommend sending it to each UC campus. But again, that's after you've been admitted and even after you enroll, actually, since we're not using them for admissions or scholarships. All right, I'll do last one for now. And then again, you have my email, so you can always email me later. So I think I almost got to all of them. So if one applies after a gap year, will the senior year courses be included in the GPA? Will the senior year courses be? Yes. So in this case, good question. If you take a gap year, those grades will be also added to the GPA. So yes is the answer. There's not much else to it. I feel like I always have to add more, but in this case, it's pretty straightforward.
Sebastian, everyone in the Q&A is just in awe of how you've presented for the last hour and 5 minutes. Thank you so much for the comprehensive presentation, and then just your willingness to answer all of these questions. And you're just so appreciated in our community, and we can't thank you enough. So we appreciate you. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. This recording will be posted on the YouTube channel. And we'd also like to give a special thanks to our Spanish interpreter who was working especially hard. So thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to end the webinar. See you all soon.